Welcome to the All Things Energy Podcast. I am your host, Josh Allen, and we are here to power up your understanding of the energy industry with some electrifying topics and some stellar guests. So joining me today in the studio is my longtime good friend, fellow curious entrepreneurial real estate energy friend, Chase Marberry with Social Lofts.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Good, man. Chase, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I'm excited to have you in here because you and I share some curiosities around lots of different things that we'll kind of get to dive into. But to get us started, let's see, our paths crossed many moons ago. I'm trying to kind of rewind the clock as we get older.
Yeah.
Some young adult college stuff, some real estate stuff, some...
Political stuff, probably.
Political stuff. That is right. That's right. And we are in an election year, so we probably don't want to go around that topic, but that's okay. Yeah. Well, so I always like to kind of ask the question, kind of what's Chase Marberry's background? What have you kind of dabbled in? What's getting your attention today? And how energy kind of comes into that. So what's kind of your background?
Real estate's basically my background since I was in high school. I knew that was the direction I was going to go with my life, and before I even graduated high school, I had my real estate license. So I grew up around real estate realtors and salespeople, and that was...
So what is this is a kind of an interesting question. What is a young person, high school student, what really intrigued you about the real estate industry, agents, the business that said, I want to go that direction?
It even goes back further than high school. My mom still has a essay I wrote when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
Wanting to be a realtor, wanting to be a salesperson. And I think part of it was the iconic black Lexus.
Yes.
I wanted to drive a black Lexus.
The black Lexus sucks you into the real estate world. It does it to another person.
Oh, yeah. So flexibility, freedom.
Yep.
I have to have my free time.
Yep.
I have to have control over my day. I'm not a procrastinator but I want to be able to dictate what happens throughout my day. And so
you saw that in the real estate. Did the real estate space itself intrigue you in terms of the property, investor, sales, all those different categories?
Once I got into it, I was just obsessed with every aspect, from just interesting architecture, design.
Yep.
I thought I was going to be an architect for a little while, but even once I started showing houses, it was just fascinating to be able to get a glimpse into the way people lived and walk into people's houses and they still live there, and they're letting me come into their home.
Yep.
And, so often you walk in, it's like you can smell dinner in the crock pot, and, it's like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'm there working, and I'm getting to experience what people's home life is going to be in 2 or 3 hours when they get home from work. That was fascinating to me.
Yep.
To kind of put together just kind of what do I want my life to look like, and seeing how other people live kind of helped shape that. But it also shaped, once I started getting into investing and remodeling properties, I got a huge smorgasbord of ideas and designs from being inside hundreds and hundreds of houses.
That's right.
And so whenever I got to start working on my own portfolio of remodels and rentals and now office buildings, I brought with me a lot of unique ideas from getting to see firsthand trends and ideas and designs.
One of the things I always try to do and drop in our podcast is, certainly we may have an energy bent, but I really want to leave listeners with just little nuggets of ways to help grow their own personal, professional development. And what I heard you saying that I'm just going to stop and kind of point at and encourage people around, and that is practice and try and expose yourself to lots of things.
Yep.
Right? Your lots of things was we'll call it in the avenue of real estate, but you put yourself into exposing, understanding, viewing, watching, listening to conversations around lots of things of real estate that informed you, which kind of, again, pivoted you in my next question, which is you've certainly acted in the sales brokerage capacity a lot. You've kind of gone down the investment track, which has included property management, Airbnbs, kind of still a bit, just kind of what all different types of real estate have you exposed yourself to, participated in, over the last several years?
Yeah, it evolved over time. I thought I just wanted to be a salesperson, and then realized the value of owning real estate. You can make good living as a salesperson, but you really need to own real estate to build wealth. And so I started selling a lot of I kind of niched myself into investors. And
investors looking for property.
Right.
You could direct them. You could show them the deals. You could put together the pro formas for them.
Exactly. But then I would hand them off to a property management company, and they would be disappointed. And they'd come back to me and go, okay, let's try somebody else. I'd send them somewhere else. And then I finally realized I need to be managing these so that they're having a good experience with a manager, so that they'll want to continue to buy investment property. And so that evolved into developing property management. But then it also realized for my own investments, as I started buying my properties, I'm not going to go hire a property manager. I'm going to manage it myself. And so why not build the system and the business so that my properties are getting professionally managed by my company, and have more insight into both sales and rental market, and I'm able to bring those two different sides of the equation together to help my clients make better decisions. Because oftentimes a salesperson calls their friend, the property manager, to ask for rental comps and market updates and stuff. And I had both. So I was able to walk through houses with clients and then myself purchasing investments. So yes, exposure, and that's very in tune. You noticed very quickly. I pay attention to patterns, and I'm always aware. And that's upside downside of just being getting obsessed in new ideas and new ventures and chasing the shiny thing all the time. But what helps is seeing the commonalities in things and the patterns, and being able to have a very large, rounded view on things, on business and in life, and just how things interact with other things, and not compartmentalizing everything. And so I get obsessed with all kinds of interesting little hobbies and ventures.
And I think even looking back at the real estate journey, I know I've seen you on, and ourselves have been on. You were, I think, earlier in the stage than most people in Lubbock, at least in our marketplace, and looking and exploring the Airbnb kind of model. It's certainly been around for a little bit,
right?
But there's been a lot of people that's jumped on the train. And I just remember earlier on, you were really kind of, I think the aesthetic design side probably appealed to you,
right?
But there was the bigger picture. I think that the trends you were seeing and trying to get in front of, and have an asset and offer those services.
Yeah. In fact, I like to say I was the very first short-term rental owner in Lubbock, because my very first investment property, I bought a house in Tech Terrace and turned it into, I lived there, but on football game weekends, I posted it on Craigslist.
Oh yeah, Craigslist, baby.
As a furnished rental.
Yep.
And I would chauffeur people back and forth to the game in my own car, and I was going to stock the fridge with whatever drinks they wanted. And so I actually had a booking from a lawyer from Austin, came and booked the house and stayed there with his daughter to go to the Tech football game.
Do you remember how much you charged?
I think it was probably like $150 a night.
Woo! That's banking money. Going from your own place though, right?
Right. Yeah. And this was back in 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craigslist was a gold mine for me when I was dabbling in the new space of kind of owner finance, lease with the option to purchase, private finance, seller finance world.
Okay.
Literally, Craigslist was gold.
Huh.
I put stuff out there like willing to seller finance, rent to own, just these different little catchwords with a property.
Yeah.
And I would get blown up with people. And it was a great filtering, tool for me to go, who might be a prospective client, who may not be. So
yeah,
Craigslist, baby.
It's all the little off the beaten path places you come across people. It's fascinating that people You would think the main areas, the big websites is where you're going to get the majority of your business.
Oh, I know.
But you can pick up some
You can.
opportunities
Absolutely.
on those off the beaten path places.
So tell me a little bit about Social Lofts. That's got a lot of your attention out still in the real estate space. So describe what that is, what you're excited about it, and
Yeah. So it's a brand. It's more than just one, building that I wanted to own office space, but I wanted to build something similar to WeWork.
Yep.
I'm not necessarily that ambitious to take it that large.
That ambition pushed him off a bankruptcy cliff. Pretty recent. So.
Yeah, that's true. But I love the design. I love the concept, and it definitely and this was pre-COVID. Before COVID happened, I had a tour to WeWork in Dallas, and I was like, this is interesting.
Yep.
I'd heard of them, but I'd never been in one. And I thought, Lubbock could probably use some short-term office rental space for the entrepreneur, the side hustler that's wanting to grow outside of their kitchen table.
Or coffee shop.
Yep. And so I wanted to, simultaneously, I wanted free office space. I wanted to office hack. And so I wanted to own a building that I could use as my office, rent out extra space, and office there for free.
Yep.
And so I literally started driving down 19th, 34th, and 50th. Those were the corridors of price points and properties that were old enough that I felt like I could do a big value add. And so I just started at like Avenue Q and just started driving west down all three of those corridors. 34th Street grew up around the corner on 27th in Louisville, Medical District. J&M Barbecue was my haunt. I actually just had lunch there today. And so came across a couple of buildings, one of which had been on the market since I was a kid.
Oh, my gosh.
This building, I think, had been vacant and for sale since I was a kid for 25 years. And
let that be a lesson to you folks. Hire the right listing agent.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So I made an offer on it and couldn't make that deal work. Kept looking. Came across another one, the old Adams Flowers building, and it was listed for sale within my budget. So I bought it, did a full gut remodel.
Wow.
But on a budget. This thing, I got in there and I was finding materials off Facebook and just hacked it together. Bought it in January, February of 2020. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm sitting here owning the biggest piece of real estate I've ever purchased.
Kidding. It's like, what have I got myself into? What did I do? Yep.
But I thought, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to make this happen. And so we got it remodeled. Took us about a year to remodel it. Got it up for rent. And then I started realizing, as I started showing office spaces, the trend was increasing for the need for office space, because now everybody was working from home and getting tired of it, as was I, and needed to get back into a social work office environment, be around other people. And so it really kind of took off, and I had the building filled up within a couple of months. Had my office was in there. It was great. People loved the design. That was my big thing, was I wanted to design it so that it was a exciting place. You look forward to going to work. You walk in and it's just like, this is beautiful and exciting and fun, and there's other people here. So it did well. Found another building, ended up buying the first building that I mentioned that I made an offer on. 2.5 years later, ended up finally buying that building.
Had it sold since you made the offer?
It had sold to actually a friend of mine that was going to use it for her showroom, and then she moved. So I bought it from her, and then almost like two months later, bought another building that I'd been trying to buy for a couple of years. And so now I've got two big remodels at the same time. Oh, wow. And this was all last year that I was remodeling. And so got both of them finished, and now I've got more than 75% of them rented. And we're closing in on the last few, but people love it. It's a fresh idea for Lubbock. And it's, people walk in and they go, this doesn't look like Lubbock. That was my goal. I want you to walk in and feel like you're in an office that you might see in a much bigger city.
Well, we'll definitely shout out and point to your Social Lofts and your, Insta social online so people can see that. But pivoting to kind of the energy intersection here, because this is kind of where the conversation is stirred up for you and I. You own a real estate asset, and describe for us, your tenants, your clients pay you kind of an all-in flat rent, inclusive of what?
Inclusive of everything. So get to walk in and laptop, and that's it. I've got the offices are all furnished, all bills included, internet, high-speed internet, electricity bills, everything. You don't have to worry about trying to set up utilities and mess with all that, but it's also short-term. I can do month-to-month leases. So you just walk right in. It's like, I mean, I've literally had people call me, and I moved them in that same day.
Yep.
And they set up shop, and they're ready to go.
So from an operations expense standpoint, you are responsible both as the building owner and as the business owner for all the operational expenses, including, here we go, energy.
Yes.
And we've had this conversation a little bit, and that is you probably just had to sign an energy contract recently, right? Because you're in the Lubbock Power and Light Zone.
Right.
How was that process for you? I mean, I would say you're probably a lot more savvy than most, but was it easy? Was it simple? Was it confusing? Just describe what that was like for you.
Okay. It was easy because of Rise Energy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that.
That's for sure. I guess we're just like right on the cusp of it actually shifting over to my new energy provider. So we'll see once I get logged into my portal and all that.
I know. Yep.
But yeah, it was really pretty easy. I'm very impressed with all the guys at Rise and how they helped me put that together and find the best rate and the best term. And it's a little bit daunting because it's like, okay, now we're being forced. We all, we're Lubbockites.
Yep.
Nobody liked LP&L. But at the same time, it's kind of the devil
Good description.
Now we're getting into, okay,
what's the devil we don't know?
What do we not know?
And now we're connected to a larger grid system, which has had its share of challenges, i.e. a winter storm failure, i.e., potential blackout events, i.e. Grid challenges that we're now directly attached to.
And we thought competitive marketplace seems like, okay, rates are going to be cheap.
No.
Rates are not necessarily cheaper.
I heard someone make the comment, it's like, congratulations. No one got a cheaper plan than where they were before. No one got signed up for that. It's the nature of the beast that we're in, which again kind of lends to some of the conversations we try to have with, owner operators, homeowners, and that is, are there solutions, assets, technologies, ways to limit, lower energy costs?
Right.
And I think that's where Rise Energy are really focused on, is like, all right, it's not for everybody, but I think everyone would like to identify, understand, and at times implement the solutions that can, lower overhead, lower, dependency on something that makes us a little bit nervous, the devil we don't know.
Right. 100%. And it's challenging in an environment like Lubbock, which is surrounded by oil and gas, to win people over to this new way of doing things to generate electricity yourself from solar. I'm thinking back, and I'm not this old, but I know from history the Jimmy Carter era. And they put solar panels on the roof of the White House.
I know, a long time ago.
And that was, so it's not a new technology. And I think a lot of people are hesitant to adopt it if they think it's all the memes, all the the frozen windmill with the helicopter. At the end of the day, if you boil down and actually look at the numbers and look at the practicalities, like the actual implementation of it, that's what won me over.
Yep. Well, and I think a lot of times people, again, because they haven't been educated, informed, no one sat down and actually really talked them through the viability of it, the financial metrics to it. Often the first thing that comes in people's minds is an us against you mentality.
It's a political thing.
It is.
Like, it doesn't need to be a political
thing. And so people think, well, this is a political conversation. It's us against you, or I'm a green waving person. I want to save the planet. And so you should do this. And well, I'm not or we're in West Texas. I'm an oil and gas supporter. And it's often it's me against you. And I think part of the conversation that we always try to have is it's like, we're actually all in this together. And I think we're all working together to try to find solutions. And again, the language we love using here is like, we want to give you back control. We want to give you the independence you deserve. You don't want to be held dependent to anyone. And oh, by the way, if you can make money, save money in the process,
sure,
I'm all for that kind of green.
And I'm all about freedom of choice. There's no reason that you should be forced into
Yeah.
anything. Now, there's also incentives to encourage certain activity. And
Yep.
as there is with it, I mean, there's a
Yep.
reason that we're in real estate, because there's tax incentives. It's the government saying, we want you to invest in real estate.
That's right.
It's a good investment for the
Listen,
U.S.
the government incentivizes the contribution to nonprofits. It's a massive incentive. Now, would people choose not to give to their nonprofits, their universities, their houses of worship, their churches, if there was an incentive? Some probably would not. Some would be like,
Some
well,
would not.
I did. There's a lot of people that would still gladly give, but the
Right.
government said, we want to incentivize a movement of capital towards supporting nonprofits, civic-minded, community oriented. And so no one has any complaint about government incentivizing that.
Right. Yeah.
And so again, that's kind of where people have perspectives on stuff.
So I'm all about for incentives, but not forced adoption.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
that's where, I mean, even with driving EVs, it's look at it I look at it purely from a personal. How does it impact my wallet? How does it impact my life, my stress, I overanalyze, and
Sure.
I like to really take things apart, and I'm an efficiency fiend. I just
yeah.
love
Efficiency,
things that
that's
are
right.
efficient, and efficiency isn't even necessarily always less work. It's also less stress, less mental energy that has to be dedicated to so eliminating concern of what happens if we have another big freeze and the grid goes offline. So having control over my electricity, knowing that that's a disruption I will not have to even worry about. So now my brain power is there's not even a percentage worried about that. So now that percentage can be focused on more important things.
Creating things, building things, taking care of things. So
Right.
I was going to ask you this somewhat recently. I'm going to say, I don't know if it's been a year or not. You, and you referenced it, you crossed into a new energy world with the vehicle you're driving. So tell me how that transpired, and then what, where you are today, because you've made a couple steps into that direction.
Yeah. So people think I'm nuts because I didn't just go buy a Tesla I traded a Ford Raptor, the man's man Baja truck. Traded a Ford Raptor and a C8 Corvette for 2 Teslas.
Woo! Someone just looked at Detroit and said, "I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See ya, Detroit."
I've not regretted it at all.
Interesting.
I absolutely love.
Did you? Let me ask this question, because you're going to give some of your experience to it. But what were some of your initial concerns, trepidations? You didn't have enough knowledge. You haven't walked it fully out, right? So you can read all of the details you want, but there's still the application of what will the real world application of driving 2 electric vehicles as opposed to a Corvette and a Raptor look like? So what were your pre-purchase, some of your concerns that was floating in your mind of all right, what's this going to look like?
Yeah, because it's a very personal experience that I can go off of other people's critiques of it and reviews, but until you actually are the one using
That's
it,
right.
you really don't know. It could be a horrible, in certain circumstances, could have been a very terrible situation.
That's right.
But for us, it was great because, prior to owning it, the concern was range.
Yes.
The concern
Yes.
was, if I'm driving to Dallas or, even in town and it loses power. We had rented a Tesla in Las Vegas.
Yep.
Drove it up into the mountains to a Corvette driving racing school.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know how all the functions were. I think it was probably running the air conditioner after, overnight to keep it cool or something, because every morning we'd come out and it lost 20-30% overnight.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want a Tesla now.
Yeah.
We barely made it back into town. There was no chargers in that little town that we were in. We had to coast back down the mountain with the windows down and the air conditioner off to make it back in time. So I was a little bit nervous after that experience. I was like, I don't know if I want a Tesla. I don't know if I want an EV at all. But then we rented another one in California because kind of have to.
You do, yeah.
Every other car is a Tesla on the road. And once we experienced an infrastructure that supported it.
Yep.
There's enough charging stations. We drove back and forth from LA to San Diego, and it was an amazing experience. No gas bill. You know, we're passing gas stations at $6.50 a gallon.
I know.
And our hotels are charging it for free. So we're not even really paying for electricity. So that experience changed my mind. And it wasn't losing power. So I realized, okay, that was not a normal situation. So great experience. So I kind of got over my hesitancy of range anxiety. And that was really the only concern. All the other aspects of owning an EV really appealed to me was little to no maintenance.
I know.
Like even for repairs, like once you're out of warranty and all of that, like, yes, there's some expensive parts on it, but it's not like an ICE vehicle and the number of mechanical moving parts that could go wrong.
I mean, how much is just your every quarter maintenance, oil and gas, fill in the blank stuff that's just normal?
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Right.
And I started thinking, I had a 6-year-old EV Tesla. So it wasn't brand new, right? It was definitely on the, and I still had, I probably over the years that I owned it, very little costs in it.
Yeah.
Very little.
Yeah.
I've even got to thinking, my oldest daughter, Selah, just turned 14 and I'm, 2 years away. Probably a vehicle will be in our lives. I don't know. But then you're thinking about what's going to be the kid's responsibility, the parental. And, of course, one of the first things we talk up, and I don't know how your experience was as a young person, but you're going to pay the gas, you're going to pay the insurance, you're going to pay the maintenance. Yeah. And then I started thinking, gas is not going to be cheap. So my daughter had to prepare for her class a whole cost of owning a vehicle, which was actually great. And here are the 5 cars and what's the cost of those cars and what are the maintenance costs. And they ran the numbers and it was something like $10,000, $5,000 to $7,000 thousands of dollars a year for gas, maintenance, insurance, upkeep, etc. And I thought, that's a lot she has to learn. And I just thought to myself, because I have solar, because I've already got a charging station, a lot of those costs would be gone if I bought her this car. Or it'd be gone for me, for us. Right. We could share a different level of cost, but not that.
And now we're getting to where the used ones are becoming way more affordable.
$30,000 to $35,000.
And, okay, so what if your battery degradation has gotten to a point where, let's say you could only get 100 miles. Kid driving around town's not going to put 100 miles on it in a day.
No.
So even if your battery was so degraded that you only got 100 miles, it still would make a lot of sense.
And you've probably seen it. When I've been looking at Teslas, even the used ones, you can get like a 20, 30, 40,000 mile. You can buy a brand new Tesla for 39 to 40. Seriously. Yeah. And they're supposed to model out their next cheapest model. We'll see if that comes out in a few years. But I just started thinking the cost of ownership for my daughter will probably be a lot less.
Way less.
Than a nice car.
And it's funny because I actually had the same conversation with my son who's 8.
Yep.
And we've started the conversation of, hey, what if we opened a bank account and you started every time you earn money, you could start saving money. And then I dropped the little nugget of, what if you started saving for a car now? How old are you? How old?
That's great.
When you're 16, how many years
can
you
save?
That's
so good.
And so
his brain is
spinning. He's looking out the window. And I thought, in 8 years, I'm going to encourage him to go EV because, same. I've got now solar. Like, I don't even pay for the electricity to charge it.
No.
And so he won't have a gas bill. But the other benefits of the safety, the knowing where they're at, the location, there's so many aspects. It's a whole different experience in owning a vehicle. It's not just another car that just happens to be run by electricity. It's a completely different ecosystem. So
Selah turned 14, and I told her, when you turn 14, I'll let you drive the Tesla in a parking lot. Okay, so we're listening here. We were in a private parking lot, large parking lot in the back of our church. And as she started to drive it, of course, she's nervous, first time ever to do this, super excited too, because she's a big girl driving the car. Yeah. I have regenerative braking.
Right.
Tell the audience what regenerative braking is. They may not know.
It's fantastic. Saves your battery use. It recharges your battery by applying friction on the motor rather than.
So when you let off the gas, what happens?
So it slows you down like you're braking. It feels like you're stepping on the brake, but you're not even touching the brake.
A little phrase you may start hearing in the industry a little bit is called one pedal driving, which is, I'll be honest, Check it out. It is a phenomenal way to drive a vehicle. Is 1 foot only.
Not as good as 3-pedal drive.
Yeah.
I'm all about the 3-pedal.
That's true. The stick shift. So as she was starting to drive the car, when she would let off the gas, right? Because a little bit of nervousness, trying to get used to it, the car would just kind of automatically slow itself down. Right. And I had this picture of like, she's actually in a little more bubble wrap learning to drive this car. Yeah. She's got a few of the bowling little bumpers on her lane, just because of the way the car is designed around safety, the pulling back of things. Right. Not saying that's going to keep her from, not making a mistake when she's 16, but it just, again, was another little check mark of this actually is not a crazy idea.
Right. The fact that it will break itself to prevent from hitting something.
Yes.
When we were driving in LA and I'm looking around at the houses and the stuff and wasn't paying attention. And it almost threw the kids on the floor.
It will throw you, yes.
And it's like, this car just prevented a rear end collision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How awesome. I mean, like, that's something that any car could do. It doesn't have to be EV.
No.
But it's just, again, it's the evolution into the next stage of car ownership that's not necessarily specific to EV, but that's how they're implementing it.
So you said that you had your first kind of interesting experience you're going to mention here?
Yeah. So I I was listing a piece of property down at Allen Henry and needed to take a big commercial sign down there. And so I thought, I'm going to pull my trailer. So I've got a Model X that has the tow package.
Yep.
And I've got a flatbed trailer, so I can haul stuff around.
Yeah.
I got rid of my truck, but I can still haul stuff around.
In a great EV, I love it.
Yeah, it works. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna see. It's about a 60-mile one way, 120-mile round trip, and
plenty of miles on the actual,
Right. So I get in, I charge it up to 100% the night before in preparation. I've got the trailer at my house, so I'm being as efficient, careful as I can be. And I get on the road, and it's like, okay, you'll get there and have 60% left when you get there. So I'm like, okay, that means I'll come back and have 10%. And maybe a little adjustment for coming back uphill, wind, anything like that. I should be fine. I get all the way down there and do my stuff, and I'm loading up, getting ready to come back, and it's starting to go down 8-9%.
Climbing that hill into post.
It's saying you're not going to make it. And I get to Slayton, and it's like, if I keep pulling the trailer going home, I'm not going to make it. So I had to leave my trailer in Slayton, go home and charge, and then go back and pick up my trailer. But, inconvenience, yes. Annoyance, yes. But at the end of the day, I was able to get my job done, do what I needed to do. And it's not, I didn't buy it to haul trailers.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't haul, that's the first time in a year of ownership I've even needed to haul the trailer long distance like that. So
I've always told myself this, and that is where there may be those occasional slight inconveniences, 20-minute delays, whatever that is, right? I ask myself, how many weekly and monthly, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes, gas station stops have I never had to do, compounded over years, and I'm still way far ahead in the time efficiency.
It's interesting too, because you look at, you fill the void, and even like with cost savings. Okay, now I've got solar on the house. I've got 2 electric vehicles. I'm not paying for gas. I'm saving. I think our average monthly was $400 a month on a gas bill for the cars. Electric bill $300, $350 a month. So I'm saving a decent amount. But you also kind of fill the void because, okay, now we're not making more money. We're saving that money. But then that gets assigned to something else. So you don't necessarily feel the savings. If you're assigned. Same thing with your time. If you are you're eliminating the stops at the gas stations, you always fill that time with something else. But you do have to take a minute to think about the added benefits of it, even if there's some detractors. That's
right. Man, we could just keep talking forever on this stuff, because it's an interesting way. Again, I like the language you used around it. It's recognizing the shifts in technology, in the tools available to us as homeowners, as consumers, as business owners, and where energy, rarely has ever been at the top of someone's mind. I don't expect it to be. I think one thing I've enjoyed is just trying to help introduce to people how energy efficiencies, technology solutions really can make a difference, both in fun ways, practical ways, financial ways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Chase, thank you so much for joining us here on the All Things Energy podcast. Any last comments just about, your energy exposure over the last year or so?
We didn't really touch a lot on, but solar, we put solar on the house, had Rise Energy do that for us. We just last week got it wrapped up and functional, and now I get to watch on my app.
I know. That's fun.
The savings. It's wonderful.
Yep. Especially with the new energy costs coming in. So anyway, well, great. Well, Chase, thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us here on the All Things Energy podcast. If you would follow us on our social media, we've got Instagram at Get Rise Energy. You can hit us up on Facebook, Get Rise Energy, and of course our website, www.getriseenergy.com. And pay attention because we've got some really exciting things coming down the pipe, some big giveaways that might be like another vehicle or something. So anyway, until next time, Josh Allen here, All Things Energy Podcast. Be good.